Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast. On this episode, we're talking to a new friend of ours, Stephen Klava.
So, Stephen is the founder of the Klava Fund, which is an app that basically gets rid of all the work and nitty-gritty stuff of normal fundraising apps and just gets you right down to trying to make money.
Yeah, because you already built your presence on social media, so why do you have to explain to an app of why you're making money in the first place?
Right.
And this is really important because right now we know a lot of small businesses that are struggling with the pandemic, especially restaurants, and being a foodie town like Chicago is, it's really sad that probably close to 33% of these restaurants are never going to open again.
So that's what this app is really trying to do. It's trying to ensure that in 2022, when the roaring 20s are happening, we're not all at Applebee's, we're at our local favorite restaurants.
That's right.
And in our favorite neighborhood. So it's a great conversation. If you're watching this conversation on YouTube, it's coming right up. But enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show. Is that what we have?
Yeah, right. Those are bought at wholesale or something like that.
Yeah,
they're
like
just they're not the high tech stuff, but we don't really use that to edit or anything else like that. I mean, these things still work perfectly fine.
Just to hear you.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. I was gonna try to go out and upgrade from this thing because I don't think the mic's too good on this. But
Well, that sounds perfectly fine to me.
Yeah.
I think there's too much kind of put in to, like people like with like a certain mic or a certain camera or a certain this or is it 4K? Is it is the sound exquisite? And at the end of the day, what you really need is somebody to hear you, right? And I think that's a huge barrier of entry for anybody to get into doing anything, where it's like, oh man, well, and like apps like Instagram and TikTok and all those other places are kind of bridging that a little bit where they're like, well, you don't need to be perfect at it, but here's a little something that get you started, to practice or anything else like that. But
yeah, it's like I tell my startups, like if you want to do a podcast, just start doing it.
Yeah.
Like don't worry about getting a professional studio set up in your house. Like
right.
Just start doing it, right?
Yeah. Right. The hardest part is starting. And, it's one of those things where you'll never get better at it. You'll never get it right if you don't do the first one,
Right.
And that's really important. And then to continue to do it, even after you get no traction from it.
Yeah,
that's
right.
the other big thing is to keep doing it.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people talk about being viral and going viral and, but no one hears of anyone until they have 1 million followers. And it's like, it just happened. It takes them years to get those.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I tell everybody starts out with 0 followers. Everybody.
Yeah.
So all those people with 24 million followers, they started out with 0. So they worked their butt off.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, it's the old saying. We're going to start saying it's an old saying. You can't buy attention. You only earn attention.
Yeah.
Right. You have to earn attention. So,
yeah.
What is that the right one?
Well, it's selective.
Oh, right.
Attention is selective. You can't buy it. You got to.
Yeah, something.
Attention is earned, basically.
Yeah, right. So, and if you're out there demanding for somebody to pay attention to you, whether that's your new app or your new this, your new that, or your brand, and you're like, listen to me, you've already lost. And, like I just posted something on LinkedIn yesterday. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
It was yesterday.
Yeah. About just there was a satire on The Onion, which is always fantastic. But they was like, oh, you actually you liked it, so you saw what I was talking about.
The Lincoln commercial.
The Lincoln commercial, right? Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but there are people that even I've seen a few people on Sill that are they're presenting stuff that reminisces storytelling in that way, and it's like you have to join the conversation, right? You can't just go off and start making up your own shit and expecting people to be like, oh, this is great, even if they were to do a 12-part series on the woman and the astronaut and the you really have to understand whether or not that's what Lincoln owners are thinking. Are they planning on, are they like, my children are going to become astronauts? Because that's very specific,
right? And it could also be it's one of those things where it's like it could be a compelling story, but it might just not be the right one,
Right.
And if if you have the greatest story on the planet and it's not what anyone is thinking about, then, pitch that somewhere else and actually focus on what your clients are looking for. And
Right.
The
what you can connect
astronauts
with.
is like the astronaut is even a harder thing to get to than being a major sports, star.
Right.
So it's a very exclusive club. So like trying to get your kid to be that, like, good luck,
And how a Lincoln would fit into that, which is so hilarious.
Because you bought a Lincoln.
But it's
And
not.
Lincoln-
It's. I know it sounds so ridiculous, and people will read it and be like, "Ha ha ha, that's hilarious." Just like with one of my favorite Onion posts is the one with the guy is pulling up his pants, walking out the front door, going like, "I got to get to this Toyota dealership because these deals won't last forever." It's like, is that like? It's the way they're pitching it, though. It's like, oh, the Toyota-thon it only lasts, It's so perfect because it's like, this is what the human condition is thinking when they see this commercial. Whatever you think you're doing is totally not what you're doing. Right. This is what people are going like, oh my God, I got to get there right now. And, you do a fake little dance.
Big brands can mess up like that, and it's okay because they have the money, right? It's these small brands that don't have a lot of money on their marketing that really need to do it right, I think, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's putting in the work and not expecting it just to kind of.
But I mean, talking like, what if these bigger brands start to pull out of these stupid ideas? You're going to have a big change in the game.
Yeah,
and it's like, hopefully, right? That's what we're planning on doing.
That's our plan, or at least that's the plan right now. Is to kind of
we're just going to hook a couple of big clients, and
show them.
Then we're going to write a book.
Yeah, right. Okay. An actual book.
Yeah, right. One chapter will be him. The other chapter will be me.
It's a 2-chapter book.
Well, we'll switch off between chapters.
Oh,
nice.
Okay, gotcha.
So you guys are big in the advertising world. Like, do you know Matt McDonald? He worked at BDO. I think he did Macy's, Miracle stuff.
Matt McDonald. I think is he in? He's not in Sill. Is he in Sill?
No, he's in Connecticut, New York now. He's from down. He grew up in Peoria, but he became a big advertisement exec out in New York. So he works for BDO, and I think he's an executive director or something now. But he did a lot of Macy's stuff, and he does a lot of the AT&T stuff, and just pretty big boy in that world.
Yeah. Yeah, I've not been a fan of anything AT&T has done, like not even close. They have this one commercial with the woman that they've been using as the AT&T spokesperson for quite a bit of time now. And I think everybody's kind of trying to follow that progressive thing where it's like, we're going to keep the one woman the same. Toyota has it. And so now they're trying to do, and they all kind of look the same too. Now that I think about it, they all kind of have a very similar
look. Yeah,
interesting. Anyways, so, but they have one where she's in the store, right, and the guy calls his mother. And he goes like, oh my God, AT&T has great deals. Once again, never happens. Nobody would ever act in that way. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But
word of mouth advertising.
That's what they did before advertising. And she looks at the camera, and it is the creepiest smile I've ever seen in my life. I don't believe it's her fault. I'm sure she's a wonderful actress. It was the direction that she was given. That it's just like, it's like, hey, like, all right, I'm not looking at this anymore. But it's so funny because we were just talking about how we were supposed to have a meeting early today. It looks like it got pushed to Thursday with a marketing guy that we're partnering up with to kind of do the strategic and the two sides of the coin. And that's funny because he's like, no, this is post advertising. What we're trying. This isn't even like, he's like, fuck advertising. Yeah. This is not advertising. This is post advertising. So I thought that would be kind of funny if we did a little bit of satire on that, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I think the new stuff is going to be high engagement models. Getting out and talking to your customers, and even if you're a big brand, like it may cost you a ton of money to do that, but do it because
you have to build out your content. You have to it's not going to be, it's like we talked with Jeff Gomez about transmedia.
Yeah, transmedia.
And that's like that's how storytelling, that's like real storytelling is supposed to work. It's like
it goes across mediums.
You have to have your
written, video, music.
Company podcast that would be on brand and would have interesting people on the podcast that people want to listen to. And it just gets your consumers and your clients and your audience basically into that ecosystem of your brand, and they feel like they actually have an influence on you. And it's more or less, it's not like, wear my brand so you do this. It's like, who's wearing my brand, and how can I communicate to them that I appreciate that you're wearing the brand, and how can they become more involved in it?
What does that brand stand for? And you hear these words being tossed around,
right? Like they almost become your salespeople at that point, where they
exactly.
They're so involved in your brand that they are.
Well, it's just like what Tom Kennedy said on our podcast. He's like, people like us do things like this, right? That's what we're trying to get at. People like us do things like this,
and that's why influencer marketing is kind of hits a ceiling, because it's like, if let's say we don't have a sponsor for the podcast, and not to say we don't want one, but let's just say before the podcast started, we say, and thank you for our sponsor, Charmin Ultra, and it's like, how many people are gonna watch this and be like, you know what, I'm gonna buy Charmin?
Wow.
Like, how many people are gonna do that? It's like, next time you need to go to the bathroom, wipe with Charmin. It's like who's gonna be like, I only did that because Frank and Jack told me to do it on their podcast.
You said Charmin Ultra, and I immediately thought of Sherman-Williams, like a painting, and then you said toilet paper, and I was very confused. I was like, what?
Right. Maybe not toilet paper. Maybe we get sponsored by
There's a lot of garbage or crap coming out of these guys' mouths. Remember when you need to wipe.
Yeah, right.
The 3-ply.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But that rarely will result in anything. It's basically trying to hijack the attention that this podcast has, and it adds no value to it.
Yeah, basically like the movies where they put the Coca-Cola can on the side, like,
right, yeah,
we're drinking Coca-Cola, therefore everybody should go out and drink Coca-Cola. It'd be cool, like, you guys.
Cool.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what though? This is a really good case study for saying that product placement doesn't work. House of Cards. What was the other one? There's another big one. House of Cards. Boss, which was on Stars, which is basically House of Cards but in Chicago. What phone were they all using? The Windows Phone.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
How did that work out? Unbelievably popular, right? House of Cards is unbelievable. All of them are using Windows phones. And the only reason why I know that they're Windows phones is because I had one at the time, because I was a rebel, right? I didn't want to. But like that doesn't work. All of them had Windows phones.
Yeah.
Right?
But then also, one of the things that happened was, like, right after The Last Dance came out, these companies that were selling shoes all of a sudden got these huge influx of shoe sales, and they were saying that was the greatest advertisement that they could have ever hoped for. Was The Last Dance. And it's weird how content can lead to the culture doing something. And they were also saying I'm sorry, not to cut you off again.
Yeah,
but they were also
the Windows Phone is, you can't fix a bad product with marketing.
No, that's true. I mean, I never had a problem with it. I really liked it. It integrated well with Outlook. I mean, my calendar is all synced up.
Yeah, but they couldn't get any developer to go on board. They couldn't, they just couldn't get the thing behind it. It just didn't ever work. It wasn't going to be a product. It's basically like the Zune. The Zune was a try to be an iPod, right? But it's not. And it clearly failed miserably. So
yeah, right.
Well, I think they messed up when they called it the Windows Phone. And when they called it the Zune. I don't even know what that is. I mean,
Well, I mean, there was a whole bunch of different stuff there. But, we've kind of rambled on about 15 minutes here, and we haven't even introduced you. So we're in conversation with Stephen Klava. Stephen, we usually start off with you giving us a little information about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And I'm Stephen Klava. I'm an entrepreneur out of Evanston, Illinois, a social entrepreneur. And I recently created the Klava Fund, which is a app where you can create a funding opportunity for anything. So if you need money for anything, go out and create a fund for it. and then get people to give you money. That's easy, right? Piece of cake. But the app is super easy, and just like to get a lot of people using it for good causes. And I think that's where I would really want to lead this product to.
Yeah. So we got a chance to take a look at the app during our pre-podcast, and it's the simplicity of it, trying to not make it such a kind of like not trying to make it such a dance and pony show. What is that? What phrase am I looking for? Horse and pony show?
I really don't know what you're trying to reference.
Anyways, not trying to be so not being so glitz and glamour of an actual full web page type thing.
I think what he's trying to say is like it's you don't have to redo the work you've already done to do it for the app. You know, it's like literally you just create the fund and you can leverage your social media presence that you already have, and you don't have to put all the reasons why you're doing the fund on the app. It's like anyone who knows what you're doing already knows why you're asking for money. You know, it's not a landing page for like donating.
Yeah, which is actually kind of weird because you wouldn't think that
it is a landing page for donating.
Well, it's not a page that you actually land on and then be like, oh, I'm going to read it as somebody who doesn't even know anything about this restaurant that's trying to be saved, and maybe I should donate. No, it's like the people that already know that that's what they're going there for. They know what they want to do, so why spend all that extra time?
Yeah.
Kind of, like you said, recreating your social media presence on a one-page thing when you could get going faster.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think like I wanted to take the ease of use and drive it down to what are you here to do? You're here to make a fund, and then taking it out to your people. You already have that, that whole network out there. So don't waste your time on my app telling it my app doesn't care why you're raising money.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You do, and your supporters do. So take it to them, right? So that's the point.
Yeah. And it's not one industry specific either. It's very open-ended. It's not like, you have some apps out there that are like, oh, this is only for social cause, or this is only for, other, fundraising sites and stuff are very specific. But this is kind of like, it's like, for a restaurant, or then you also mentioned like, political fundraising and stuff like that. It's just, the idea here is that there are so many different social media sites out there where you're already building a presence. And if you don't have a presence, then you shouldn't be trying to raise money. You should do it the other way around.
Via social media.
Right. So it's like, how can we just expedite this process to make it faster and easier and simple and, leverage what we already have and what we're already doing?
Yeah. So I was like, one of my things was like, what about, the TikTok generation or these younger folks? They don't want to be bothered to, take a whole long time to create a fund, Hey, I'm in the middle of creating this awesome video for my, for my Instagram, my TikToks, wherever they're putting their content, and they want to do it fast. So like, it takes them 30 seconds to make a fund. They can plop it on the QR code up there when they put out their video, and boom, they're done. So it's really super simple to do all that. So
yeah, especially with the QR code, which our dad is obsessed with QR codes, and then they kind of fell off a long time ago, where we're like, why are we putting QR codes on business cards when it's all the information's right there? But I like the way that you kind of you were putting up the QR code wasn't necessarily for like on the back of something that you were handing out to people. It was like, hey, listen, like you could put this on a window and be right to the fund, right? So, and we're going to kind of transition a little bit here. And we could talk about the current environment that we find ourselves in, how important it is to be able to, have a fund or have some way to get fundraising, to get people to go and actually donate money, something that's not totally crazy. Everybody understands what situation that we're in, and help some of these restaurants and small businesses, which Saturday, which was 2 weeks ago, because when we do this, you'll be a week later.
Yeah, right.
Was Small Business Saturday. And so it's like, okay, well, you can go and you can support them, but that was a great opportunity there where it's like, okay, yeah, you can come and support us and buy from us, but here's another opportunity too. It's like we have another fund so that we can get through this whole thing, so that when we're outside and we all want to go out, drink at different places,
Yeah,
we're here.
There's not just Applebee's.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point in that all these businesses, they shouldn't feel bad about trying to get more money in different ways. I think a lot of restaurants, they don't want to do the fundraising thing because they feel like they're not giving a product to the people. They're just getting kind of a thing. But I think during the pandemic, don't be afraid to go out and save your business, because your business not being around post the pandemic is what I'm really afraid of. I don't want to see a bunch of businesses like a ghost town. Nobody wants to see a ghost town of the downtown areas. In all the suburbs and all the big cities. Nobody wants to see that. And having your favorite restaurant not be there, yeah, great, you can go out, but yeah, you can't go to the one you want to go to. And if they would have had the opportunity or asked for the money, because it's a pandemic, I think it's totally legit to ask for money, because the government's not going to save you. And maybe they might get some funding here, but it might be too late. You might have to shut down before that because you didn't have that money to get it, right?
Yeah. Right. And then the trying to stave off the ghost deserts.
Yeah.
The ghost towns. I combined two of them together.
The ghost deserts.
The ghost deserts. It's kind of an interesting thought there, a ghost desert. I've never heard of a ghost desert before.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. But trying to get rid of or trying to stave off the deserts or the ghost town effects, where it's like these were once really live and vibrant areas and communities and neighborhoods that people go to specifically for their small businesses, specifically for the local restaurants. All of a sudden you go there and there'd be nobody there. And that's a big problem. And I think that a lot of people are recognizing that being a big problem, except for people that say the void will be filled. But the fear is that the void will be filled by, an Applebee's or a Chili's or
Yeah, only and people are going to be a little bit adverse to risk in starting a business. So you're going to have people that, maybe have a really passion for food, but are I'm only going to be viable if I'm able to serve my customers. I don't have this big corporate entity that's going to say, we're going to keep it, we're going to shut it down, but we're going to keep the real estate so that we still can open it back up when we're ready. And that's another big fear. You're just going to get a bunch of homogenized garbage food.
Yeah, exactly. So that's they say that 27% of these small businesses have already shuttered. So and that was before this second latest shutdown. So we're going to see people going down, and the people that do survive are going to see more traffic because there's less opportunity. There's less competition basically. So the people that do survive will actually probably be really good on the other side of this. They just have to survive this. Right. And that's the push that I want to really push out there is like, get a Klava fund. It's really easy to make it. Put the QR on a sign that you can hang on your business and allow local supporters to come and give you money. Maybe they're afraid to come into a business. Maybe they're afraid, deathly afraid. Maybe they have some immune compromised position they're in. But that doesn't mean that they can't scan a QR code and give you $5, $50 to make it through, right? And then when you do that, take it out to your local news, right? Like go to your local news stations and let them know that you're doing this, so that maybe they can get some more people involved as well.
Yeah, because we keep hearing about the Roaring '20s coming back, right? And it's the perfect situation. Because it was like you can't do anything, and then everybody I've talked to on SIL about this has been like, oh yeah, I can't wait to go out there. I'm like, it's going to look like Oktoberfest in Germany. People are going to be napping on the stoops of the churches at noon. Yeah, pissed drunk, right? And it's just going to be a free for all when we get out of this. And that's what you're saying. It's like you got to get past this rough spot to get to the golden rivers of tomorrow.
Yeah, right. And the amount of money that you really do need at that point, just to survive, is kind of, it's not to say it's little, but it's not too much to ask for, like you were saying. It's not too much to ask for. I need this to survive, and so that I'm there when you want to get pissed drunk at noon. I need something now. And it's a shame that the government hasn't helped these companies, at these small businesses out, which, as we all know, every politician loves to say,
small businesses are the backbone to the economy.
But yet when it comes down to it, we're going to bail out the 4 major airlines before we're even going to think about bailing out the entire hospitality industry for a fraction of the cost.
Absolutely. So it's just like, and then also they're going to banks, and these banks are going like, I don't know if you're going to be around. Like, they're not going to take that risk either. So it's a risky proposition to fund anybody right now. And because you never know if you're going to get paid back. Right. So, but what I've talked to, and a lot of people I've talked to, when I tell them that, hey, what if your local restaurants and your local small retail shops that you love had a fund on it, would you consider giving? And most of them were like, yeah, I would, because I don't want to see them gone, and they're truly in danger right now. So
right, yeah. So now it's the it's a lot of work by the nonprofit type of world. We have the Chamber of Commerce is out there, so that's what I'm referring to, that have to go out there and really find you, and then start to build that kind of interweb ecosystem where it's like, okay, these are the people that are supporting this neighborhood, because everybody has a neighborhood. Chicago is a very neighborhood city, right?
Absolutely.
You go to a certain neighborhood because you like the way that neighborhood feels, right? You can go to Pilsen, you can go anywhere that you want. You're like, this is my neighborhood. This is where I grew up, right? And I like this place. But it's very neighborhood orientated. So it's like, okay, well, how now do we go and try to build that ecosystem, right? That the webbings between the restaurant on the corner, along with the the knick-knack shop of that other place, where there's a lot of foot traffic, they do all right. But now there's no foot traffic. So now what are they supposed to do? Like, how do you build that? What's the next step? How can we do that?
Yeah, so I think getting the word out on a Klava fund, is can be used through your social media. So, and also, putting it out there in big media spots. So like you said, taking to your chambers. I think I'm really trying to get the attention of chamber people, because me going out and going to every restaurant and retail shop in Chicago is just not feasible, right? Like, I'm not going to hit all of them. So I'm really trying to get the attention of, the players like that. And then once you do have a Klava fund and you have it, you can put it on the front of your shop. And if you get some media attention, if we can get some, coverage, they can tell people, hey, drive around your car and go around to your favorite restaurants and retail shops. And if they have a Klava fund, consider giving it to them. Because that's a socially distanced, safe way that people can go out. Even if they're scared, they'll drive around their car still. So I think like those type of things. And then any shop that has a social media presence, I think it's really easy in the app to take the QR code and your hashtag to your social media presence as well. So going, I think all those different routes, and you might be able to see, enough money to save your business.
Yeah. I'm wondering too, it sounds like it would be more beneficial if the Chamber of Commerce or let's say a local Chamber of Commerce or a neighborhood or some organization that's in charge of those things would kind of band together and just make one Klava fund instead of having a whole bunch of mini ones. And then being like, hey, listen, everybody's working together to save Lincoln Square, right? If like a neighborhood would band together, right, and then there is some way to distribute that, I mean, all of a sudden now you're not pointing people into a million different directions. You're pointing them to one direction. You're like, hey, the Chamber of Commerce is like, listen, this is what we're doing. Lincoln Square and Andersonville, I think, are a part of the same one, right? But they have like it's like, these are the places that we're trying to save. And this is the fund that we're putting together.
Yeah, I think it is a way that you can use the app totally. And the one major problem with that is that it is then on whoever created that fund to distribute those funds. So it gets kind of like tricky in that way.
Sure.
So when you have like a spoked organization like a chamber where you have a lot of members and you have this, it's actually easier for the members to create their own fund. Then they can hook up their own bank accounts and they can hook up their own stuff, and they truly get the money from their supporters instead of spreading it out across. Because let's say a chamber does that and they'd have one fund, and then when they put it all together and they give all their members, an equal split of it, what if that doesn't save very many of them? So I think like it's kind of like you want to save the ones you want, right? And I think that's kind of like the antithesis of put it out there on your business with your fund connected to save your business. It's kind of a selfish thing, but I think like that's kind of like you may have better supporters, you may have given better service. So it's truly like if you're a business that was thriving and is now in trouble, but you're going to be, you're still going to make it and thrive, people will give to you. If you're a business that was just hanging on to begin with, and now you're like, yeah, maybe you should think about starting another business that you can do better at, something like that. But, I don't want the chamber to only give a certain amount equally to all of them necessarily, because that might not be, giving it to the best businesses that people really want to give to.
Yeah, I think it's a valid argument on that part. But I do also know that, like, especially on social media, if there's a lot of people squawking for money, and there are a lot of people right now. We just had Sam Provenzano on the podcast last week, and he was talking about raising money and everything in this time, and the overall conclusion was that there's plenty of money to go around, right? It really just depends on how you're going about it. I just feel like that if you did have, and I totally understand your argument on the other side, but I feel like if you had that one focal point that could do that and kind of focus the marketing and the efforts of getting eyeballs on it, would be a lot easier to do if it was a huge collection of people that were all kind of banding together. But like I said, I totally understand the other side of it, because then if you got,
if one business is really pulling all that money in and these other 60 businesses haven't done anything, then.
But at the same time, would that one business be, that's pulling all these people in, need those other accessory businesses to make the full night?
It's kind of like, it's like what you're saying. If you don't want ghost towns, then you would say, I want to fund the neighborhood.
Right.
As all the businesses in this neighborhood. And then it's the other thing too. It's like, if I'm going to do one, I might just want to do that once. Like, I might be more willing to give $150 to the Lincoln Square Klava Fund than to just one restaurant and give them $5.
Yeah, and
to each restaurant.
There's nothing to say that they can't do it both ways as well.
Yeah, that's true.
You could do it both ways, and then the person can decide when they scan. You could have two signs, basically one that has a QR code for the whole entire commerce, and then you can have yours for just your business, and then people can decide then at that point.
Yeah, right. If they want to give more to that individual restaurant, or if they're more inclined to help save the whole area. Because I'm wondering too, if like at that point, what you could start to do is, if you have like a neighborhood that's like, hey, we're trying to help out all these businesses, whether or not you can start getting bigger checks than just the crowdsourcing itself, and actually go out and start to see if you can get some, like $10,000 donations to the whole commerce in and of itself. Right.
Yeah. Now, and I think that's a great point. And I would say, if you're going to give $10,000, do not do it through my app. Write out a check to the commerce and hand it to them, because I'm all about donor privacy, and I'm all about donors. And one thing that I don't do on my app is I don't sell donor information. But because of that, I still have to make money. I'm a business, so I do have to have a service fee. So I don't want to take service fee out of $10,000, right? So like write out a check and take that to your commerce directly. Don't go through my app when you put big money towards it. But I'm really in in the smaller ranges, under $500 is probably where you want to stay on my app and give. But like, yeah, if you're doing a big check, go directly to the people and give it to them.
Well, yeah, but I think that just goes, it's like, oh, there's this big, it's like a matching fund almost. Whatever they give, then I can give this. And I think the more eyeballs you have on it, the more collective, the higher probability that you'll attract one of those bigger donors.
Absolutely. So I think just getting the need out there, I think the need really needs to go out there. So I talked to some commerce chamber people, and they're really like working on grants right now to try to save their whole business structures. Yeah. And that's one way to do it. Right. But so, doing that, but then adding the Klava Fund, it's really super simple app. So it doesn't take a lot of time to set it up for any business, and I can run a demo for a group of businesses in any chamber, and it only takes about 15 minutes to show people how it works. So it's super simple to put out there, and so I really kind of want to make sure that people, if you're trying to save your business, try everything possible. Don't give up, because people obviously do love your business. It was around before, and we want to see it around afterwards,
Yeah. And there are definitely businesses out there that were doing well before that are doing really well right now too, in the restaurant industry, that have pivoted, that's the big thing. There are people that were, that would rely on the walk-in and then that whole thing. But some of these other restaurants and stuff, they were really doing well with reservations, because they would just always be booked up and you would never be able to get in anyways. Right. And now it's like, well, I can just take food out. It's like, I don't even have to wait to get in. And now it's all on the kitchen. Can they produce this amount of, food at this amount of time? But those, once again, the larger, it's weird, because, a lot of restaurants, social media wise, they're very primitive. I feel, I feel like a lot of their posts and a lot of the stuff that I've seen from a restaurant, and I can only go off of the couple restaurants that I follow on Instagram or on Facebook. It does seem very like I'll post up a picture every once in a while. It's always in the same area, and it's like, hey, look at this great food and stuff. And the real reason why I go back is not because of their social media or anything else like that, but it's because of the actual food and the experience. So I'm wondering too. It's like there has to be boots on the ground in a way to get people to donate money, because social media is not going to do it all. If they just post it up there, it's like, well, that's not gonna. That'll get the attention of the people that you have already following, maybe. Because there's a lot of followers that just, I don't know, are only active once every 2 months or something like that.
Well, I mean, I think it's also the way the logarithm works. Like sometimes for Instagram, I know it's like you only get, it only shows to 10% of your followers, and then if it gets good engagement, then it opens it up to the rest of your followers. So it's yeah.
Yeah, I think this kind of highlights a point that I have a feature in the app, and it's a true grassroots feature. So I think I'm the first fundraising app out there that has a true grassroots feature. So you can actually download the app and go to the fund that you want to highlight, and you can actually apply your own picture and to the QR code and to the hashtag. So if you do that, and then you can post it to your social media. So it's not necessarily that the restaurant has to have really great social media. You could actually extend the reach, and all the supporters can extend the reach with the app through their social networks. So, if you really love a bar, you really love a restaurant, and, your social network is a bunch of people that would always be at that bar that you enjoyed, really good times with, then they'll see it and they'll go, oh man, that bar's in trouble. Let's give them, a couple bucks. So I think that's another way that my app has some internal tools that allow those type of interactions and outreach, and totally gets it to a bigger audience.
Yeah, so how does that work though? So it goes through the hashtag, but like how does the hashtag then direct them to the app?
So the hashtag the hashtag is a unique identifier for each fund. Okay, so like the old funding apps, they used a URL, so you had to remember the big long URL, and like I'm like we're modernizing this, right? Let's put hashtags on this, and then so the hashtag, you can either go to klavalabs.com and enter the hashtag there and donate. And then, when you go there, you can see that you can download the app and everything like that. But then, so those are the type of ways that would kind of like just in the moment how you get to figure out that there's an app to do this type of stuff. But there's really nothing to say that it's not going to be in the consciousness, I guess. But you can tell all your supporters that it's possible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm wondering too. And this is like the future of like social media. Whoa, we're about to go on a rocket ship right now.
Let's see, man.
The idea here is that you could follow hashtags on Instagram, on Twitter. You could follow specific hashtags. Now, one of those hashtags, not only could you follow them, but they were clickable and they would take you to where that native was, or you could almost link the hashtag to certain things. And I'm just thinking that because if I see somebody post something about a restaurant and it has that hashtag and I know that leads somewhere, and then I can just go click and then actually directly there, because you're trying to mitigate the amount of time somebody has to change websites, right? It's like you don't want them to go here and then have to go here and then have to download something and then have to do it, because every single step is another chance for them to go like, what was I doing again? And then just leave.
Yeah, absolutely. So so I mean, like that's like that would be like on your true supporters that really want to do it. But as far as the experience, the donor experience on the app is the easiest way is to scan the QR code. With the QR code scanner, or your current iPhones will take you right directly to the website to give. Right. That's the kind of donor path that I wanted to go on for that. Now, the extra features in the app are kind of extra features, and you kind of got to get to know the app a little bit better to get at them, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about like how, because like I'm looking forward to 2022. Because that'll be I feel like that's going to be the time that it's going to.
That's what all the experts are saying.
Yeah.
The 1 month bender, we're all
right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the experts, like one of the main reasons why the 20s were the roaring 20s was because the Spanish flu had ripped through the whole world for 2 years. And then when everybody was like, it's over, it's like, well, let's go out and drink. Oh, someone said we can't do that. Well, organized crime.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. So probably going to happen in 2022, and it'll be just like kind of odd that it'll be again the Roaring 20s. Hopefully,
we don't have a stock market.
Yeah, right. No one will buy everything on credit. Everything will be on Bitcoin at that point, and then when Bitcoin pops, then everyone's done.
The next recession, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No, very seriously.
Great.
That you just predicted the future.
The ultra depression.
You got to go talk to Matt Goring and tell him that he's got to put that in a future Simpsons episode.
Yeah, right.
It's probably already in it, actually, now that I think of it.
Yeah, history's repeating itself. Yeah, fun.
The Bitcoin
pop.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. Because
when all computers shut down and then we have no source of income or wealth and no one knows what they're doing, and then everybody's just raiding their grandmother's house to get a little bit of gold.
Yeah. Well, they did have recently. I saw this that people have the AWS went down, Amazon's thing, and a lot of these like robots that people bought like stopped working because they couldn't hit the Amazon Web Services to function. So like people bought these things, and all of a sudden Amazon Web Services isn't there and it's not working. So
right.
Like, oops, maybe we should not do that, right? So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's gonna be bad.
Yeah, and hopefully, Ford doesn't come out with a Model T in 2028. That'd just be
What happened in? I don't know this story.
No, just that's what everyone was selling. Their Model Ts.
Oh,
when the stock market crashed, you don't want Ford to come out with another one.
Oh yeah, because then that would be
the future. Precursor. The Model T2, everything looked the same. It'd be weird.
The Model T, you get it in any color as long as it's black, right? So that was the thing going on back then. Like,
well, they could if they did do another version of the Model T, it couldn't be any other color than black.
Yeah, right. That would be true.
Because they'd have to pay some sort of homage to Henry Ford. Yeah, great. So we can kind of talk a little bit more about what I was saying about like the boots on the ground, and I'm wondering like it's just so difficult because you can't really go outside, or you're not supposed to go outside and actually go and try to go.
And it's getting cold. So
and it's getting cold. Right, yeah. So we're in an interesting spot right now.
It's probably the toughest spot we're going to be in with this thing is right here, right now, is these next 3 months, especially, or 4 months, especially in Chicago or in the northern states. You're not going to, well, I mean, first of all, everyone's going to hate each other because we're not going to be able to get outside. We're going to be cooped up in our houses. We're not getting enough sunlight. But this is the darkest day. This is when it's going to suck, and especially right around the holidays when everybody wants to go out. And this is the reason why the holidays are around this time, is because we can't go outside and we're cooped up inside all day. There's not enough sunlight. This is why they're put here, is because we need some what is it? Serotonin, oxycodone? No, oxycodone is something else.
We all could do some.
Vitamin D,
Vitamin D. Well, we just need some happy what's happy drugs? No, what is it called? Oxycodone is not what it's called. Doxycycline? No, that's a different thing. What is it? Serotonin. Serotonin, but then there's another one.
Okay, well,
I don't know what the other one is.
Nice.
Dopamine.
There you go. We need some of that. We need human interaction at this time more than any, and we're not going to be able to do it because not everybody could wear a mask when we were supposed to. But yeah, it's going to be the hardest time. It's going to be the hardest time of the year. That's what the new song is going to be. It's the most hardest time
That's the most
difficult time of the year. It's going to be. It's going to be hard, and this is when people need support, and definitely those businesses. Like, I couldn't imagine owning a restaurant right now and being like,
I think what you have to do is you really have to get people to order out. And people had been ordering out. It was kind of a trend. And then now it's the only way that you're going to be able to do it. So how do you get people to make sure that you're ordering out when you have the option to go to one of these local restaurants? And that's just all individual, choice. How do you get them to choose you over somewhere else? Like the recent story, I went to Portillo's, and Portillo's line was just ridiculous, right? For their drive-through, like they are just craziness. And I got out of the car. I wasn't driving the car, so I didn't just end up causing a huge traffic.
I don't know where this story's going. I got out of the car and I walked straight into Portillo's.
No. I ended up going to just like a little corner shop because I wanted beer, and I was like, well, if we're gonna sit here for this long time, you can stay in the car. I'm gonna go get some beer. So I walked over, and then I passed by this little tiny place that essentially does the same thing as Portillo's, right? It's brown paper bag, greased through the, the bag kind of place. And I'm like, and it had people going in and out of it. And I'm like, we should have just went here. First of all, wait time, way less, right? Second of all, this is a local place. This is just this place. It's just on this little strip. Has a craft brew place right next to it. I'm like, that's where we should have gone. And I think that, we think about these big names often, but we really have to start to change our thinking and make it so that we're thinking about those places that we would go to that we'd enjoy sitting outside or sitting inside of it and having a whole night and experience there, and now having to start to change our focus a little bit and be like, we have to make sure that those places are still around, whether that's through donations or actually ordering from it, which makes more sense because then we get something in return.
And they also feel better about it if people are ordering. It's like you said, most people don't want to ask for money because they're like, I'm not giving you anything. It's like, well, you can order out from these places, and they would be very happy if you did.
Yeah, but I think there's an amount of people that are so scared of the virus that they don't want anybody handling their food. You know, like they are that deathly afraid of it. And so, yeah, I just think, great. Yes, do go out and, give them, support the business, but then have a Klava fund on the side and allow people to give, in another way. Like, and so, like I said, just try your hardest. And, Portillo's, they do a great job. Why? Because they have really good food. Like, it is super good. Like, it's not like they're not one of those bad chains that I don't like because they give you crappy food. Like, Portillo's is like a really good hamburger or hot dog. It's like good, and that's why they're a big thing. But the other, these other smaller places, like, they need the support, and they should try multiple ways to do it. So, we're entrepreneurs, right? And entrepreneurs typically try out of the box thinking. And sometimes, restaurant people that have, been in a restaurant for 20 years, they don't. So they just kind of do like the herd mentality of, oh, they're doing that. We'll try it too. Like, but this is kind of out of the box thinking. Like, yes, we're in a pandemic. You have to try everything to save your business. And I think it's, something to consider.
Yeah. So what methods are you using outside of going to like the Chamber of Commerce people, to try to get as many, basically more of a calculated shotgun approach to get people to be aware of, like, how else?
Well, he's on our podcast.
Yeah, he's on our podcast, obviously. But I'm wondering like how else, how else could everybody kind of help get rid of the stigma of this and actually kind of take you out for a test drive?
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to get a hold of people like Sam Toa of the Restaurant Association, Illinois Restaurant Association. So he's got a big megaphone for restaurants, right? So, and he's always on the news, and I see him, oh, there's nothing being done to help our restaurants, and I'm like, well, I got this app. It could really help your restaurants. Like, right. It is something that and if he picked up the torch and looked at the app and said, wow, this is kind of cool, and it can do that. And, maybe that's so that's going at the top of the mountain, right?
Yeah.
And those type of things, the chambers and Sam, they're all at the top of the mountain kind of thing going down. But my app is really can be used by the ground, the ground troops as well. So, I don't mind, hey, restaurant workers that have been furloughed, tell your restaurant owners about this app, because maybe they can get enough donations to actually hire you back during this Christmas season. Maybe that's a possibility. It might happen. So I think that I talked to one lady recently that she was a pastry chef, and her boyfriend both got furloughed. So they're completely without income over this holiday season, and they don't know if that restaurant's going to make it.
Right.
So I'm talking to her, and I'm like, oh, that's horrible. It makes my heart sink. It's like all these people that are in this position, and I'm like, well, go, tell your restaurant owner that they can do this. Like, try it. So right. I think like getting out to the to the younger people that are really working these jobs and letting them know is another possibility. So that's kind of like
right.
So the ground, the ground up, ground root support basically, and then trying to go from the top. So those are the two methods that I'm trying to use right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think it's important. It's a good idea, and then hopefully there will be some sort of traction. In reality, all you need is one really good story.
Yeah. From
somebody using it, being like, hey, this worked. And all of a sudden, then you have your own groundswell.
Yeah.
Of support.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. Like if we can get a neighborhood to like do it, like one of these chambers to kind of hold up the banner and do it, and then we can get the media can support it right away. Like if it's helping businesses survive, then that's a good story to take to the news channels and stuff like that. So I think like doing something like that would be awesome to really get it out there and try to help as many businesses survive this pandemic. Like that's what I want to do. Like I built this app for doing good things in the world. And that's not only nonprofits, that's saving these businesses is a good thing. It's not a bad thing to save a business. So that's kind of the way I take it.
Yeah. No, great. Well, Stephen, it's been a great conversation. We usually end off with some words of wisdom, anything that you think that, could neatly wrap up the conversation we had.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff. I mean, I think that just individual, the individual responsibility that we all have to kind of save or help out a lot of these different. You got to drink more coffee in the morning.
No, I just started. No, not the entire time. It was only towards the end I started yawning. I don't know what it is. My body just reminded me I was tired.
Okay, but our own individual responsibility to kind of save these communities that we call home, that we go to all the time. And just changing our thinking, and then whether that's through donations or ordering or trying to buy from local all the time, then that's the way that we kind of have to do it. But I'll let you go ahead and speak. So
yeah, right.
I did your words of wisdom.
Yeah, right. He's trying to do your words of wisdom. He's trying to take your thunder. This is you.
No, I was on Instagram recently, and I was going through and looking at some restaurants and trying to have them follow me so I can maybe get the word out to them. And a lot of the pages had closed indefinitely on them is their last post, and it horrifies me that this is going to take down so many small businesses that we are not. The world's going to be different on the other side of this. Of course it is, but my favorite restaurants and my favorite retail shops, I don't want to lose them. And I don't think anybody else does. So we really, I think it's kind of independent of our local support to really help these small businesses out. And I think, kind of getting the word out that there's a possibility to do that, with my app. I think that's really the thing that I want to try to find anybody that will listen to me to help me get the word out about this app. And appreciate you guys for having me on. And I think it's a great thing you guys are doing.
Thanks. Yeah, no, and I think that sums it up pretty well, because that's our own. Yeah. Like I said earlier, my words of wisdom from the conversation was that we really do have an important responsibility here. But yeah, so thanks so much for being on with us. Appreciate it. Looking forward to, like everybody else that we've had on the podcast so far, looking forward to meeting you in person at some point, and hopefully sharing a beer with with you at your favorite local bar, because that's the way you experience new things, and that's how you end up falling in love with some of these places, but then you also have to explore new places too. So
yeah, absolutely. Let's get out there.
Wow, that was a great conversation.
Yeah, I had never heard about ghost deserts before, but I'm really interested in going to one.
Right, but you know what? If you want more content like this, then why don't you just like, share, and subscribe? Because we have great content like this all the time. We have 39 episodes of In Conversation. Many of them are on YouTube. And then we also have a new episode of Stipulations coming up this Friday.
Yeah, so learn how to make that cocktail, whichever one it might be, because we don't know. This is in the past. Ooh. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it.